TrentoVision.tv, from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Where evil and corruption is exposed. That's what we do around here on the Tom Trento Show. We're TrentoVision.tv, broadcasting on this beautiful, rainy, it's raining like crazy here in South Florida on the 29th of May, Wednesday. Today is, for all the Democrats who were real Democrats a while back, today's President John F. Kennedy's birthday. Did you know that? And it's Patrick Henry's birthday. And it's Bob Hope's birthday. So May 29th, 2013, a couple of minutes after 5 p.m. in the afternoon on the East Coast, Boca Raton. We're broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen, out of WNN 1470 on your AM dial. 50,000 horsepower going all the way up the eastern coast of Florida, through northern Miami, through Fort Lauderdale, through Palm Beach, West Palm, all the way up to Orlando on a good day. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate everybody on the radio side, on the television side, the internet television side, TrentoVision.tv. And this show is going to be broadcast on our special guests site. We'll tell you about that person in a minute. Also on teapartycommunity.com, teapartycommunity.com. Hello. Let's bring CJ in and we'll both say hello to the Tea Party community people. Hello, CJ. How are you?
Hi. Good.
Hello, Tea Party community. You guys could say hello too. Those are our friends.
Hello, Tea Party.
Oh, Abdullah, you're with us today.
I am here.
Oh, he would have missed this show.
I would not
Don't
miss
you have
this.
a job? You come to our studio every day. We don't pay you anything. How do you do that?
He gets the jizya.
I am paid by my mosque to attend and keep an eye on you.
Oh, you're paid by your mosque.
Yes,
Okay,
to keep an eye on you.
Well, you're gonna have an interesting. You're gonna have an interesting day
Oh, yes,
today.
world's most famous apostate.
Yeah. That's right. We have the world's most famous apostate. Walid Shoebat is with us, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be on in just a few moments. Walid is a former Muslim, former member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and now a fascinating individual doing amazing work. And but I won't get into too much of it because we'll tell you when we bring him on. But he does these investigative exposés, these reports, and this one is shocking. It's shocking in the real world, in the Obama nation world or the United States of Obama. It ain't that shocking in a sense.
It is an abomination.
It is not shocking in the Muslim world.
It is an abomination.
It is not shocking in the Muslim world either.
But you will be incensed, indeed. And in fact, it's a two-part show. Wednesday today, the second part of Walid Shoebat's special investigative expose will be shown tomorrow, the 30th. I think the 30th comes after the 29th of May. The 30th of May. So last week, as you know, we spent quite a bit of time, and here's a couple of newspapers from London. We spent quite a bit of time on this issue. This is the Daily Mail. I had a friend in London who was there during the attack on drummer Lee Rigby. And we're going to continue with this story. We're going to be continuing with this story in days ahead because not only is it a shocking, heinous, horrendous event. Here's Lee Rigby right here on the Metro. But now this copycat events taking place, and we don't know if they're copycat events because, as you know, we're students of Inspire magazine, which is a magazine of AQ, Al Qaeda.
I love that magazine.
Yeah, I know you do. And Al Qaeda talks about small cell jihads, just figuring out a way in which to cause mischief and trouble in the West. And on Friday, today's Wednesday, 2 days from today, Friday the 31st, we will have Skyped in from Paris, France, an individual who has made his name, actually, and nobody knows his name, but has made a mark in the West, in the world, by videotaping the thousands of Muslims that shut the streets down in Paris on Friday prayer. What's the name of Friday prayer?
Juma prayer.
Jumping Juma.
Jumping Juma.
Freaky Friday, jumping Juma,
Yeah,
as you
Freaky
like to
Friday.
Our for those of you who aren't regular devotees of our show, Friday is Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday Fridays, and we do a little evaluation of CJ reads updates us on the jihad attacks around the world, and we talk about the religion of peace, but we also reach out to those Muslims caught up in on a serious note.
Yeah, it's the religion of pieces.
Yeah,
And we're bringing Max on
Body
because
parts.
of something similar that happened in France.
We're bringing a person on who is going to report on an attack that occurred in France, where a soldier was standing in line and a Muslim came up behind him and tried to slice his throat. So he's going to report on that. That's on Friday. Today and tomorrow we have Walid Shoebat, and but our special guest on Friday will go way beyond that attack and tell us what the jihad situation is, what the culture is, what the French are doing to fight the onslaught of Islam in their country.
It is fantastic
I
what
think
we have
they're
done there.
capitulating.
Well, on a serious note, we know, because many of you communicate with us, we know that many Muslims watch our show, and they try to do opposition research. I think that's what it is. But and we have said a million times, and we're straight out. My real name is Tom Trento. I'm not hard to find. I do not hate Muslims by any means. I don't like the ideology of Islam. It fails as a theological system. It fails as a political system. It fails as a system that can maximize what human life is all about. And if you're a Muslim, please, I welcome you disagreeing. Either I'm correct, and our team here, that Islam is a failed system, or you're correct. Well, we're all going to find out someday, but at least be open-minded enough to allow us to present our reasons, our evidence. And don't be locked into this belief, I could never reevaluate the Quran. It existed before time, and all Allah did was give it to Muhammad, and he brought it down, Gabriel through Muhammad, and it's here. That has to be critically analyzed. And simply because we do not accept, a priori, the presupposition that the Quran existed eternally, doesn't make us evil people. It makes us thinking. It makes us thinking people. And in fact, the individual we have as our special guest for the next 2 days, and maybe we'll get into some of his pilgrimage from Islam to Christianity. That individual could be very insightful. So tell your friends, you Muslim folks out there that are watching, tell your friends to watch tomorrow also, on Thursday, as we have Walid Shoebat on.
Tom, I think it would also be a nice time for you to invite any practicing Muslims to contact you to have either a Skyped-in debate or an in-person debate, to have this conversation with Islam versus Judeo-Christian values, and a fair debate, a non-set-up. So extend that out to anyone who disagrees with Tom.
That's been an open invitation since the show started.
Yeah, but we probably should reiterate it.
I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket.
I want to see what.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Don't hold your breath on that one. But no, in all seriousness, we can Skype in. Andy Chowdhury from London. Anybody, any Muslim that's you don't even have to be qualified, but the more qualified you are, the better. You have an open invitation anytime to come on our show. You don't have to come in the bunker studio. We can do it by Skype. We'll listen to your side. We're not going to beat you up or
You have nothing to be afraid of.
You have nothing.
They will not hurt you.
See, we got Imam Abdul. I fooled you fools. He's here, and he's alive and well.
So please, if you would like to make debate with Trento, you contact him.
Very easy. Very
Just
easy to
contact
find.
him. He will make debate with you.
You can go to TrentoVision.tv.
Tom at TrentoVision.tv.
Yeah, Tom at TrentoVision.tv, or go to Tom at the United West, or just say Tom and we'll appear somehow.
Just Google Tom Trento.
All right.
You'll find him.
A lot of stuff going on. Before we get rolling with Walid, our very good friend Diana West.
Mazel tov.
Yes, one of my we're co-authors, Diana, myself, and 17 others on Sharia: The Threat to America. Well, Diana wrote this book, American Betrayal.
Look how little the words
The
are.
words are so tiny, Diana. What are you doing to us? And guess what? No pictures.
No picture.
She wrote a book with no pictures. Now, that's not going to fly here on our
Charlie
show.
Hebdo will be
Okay.
providing the illustrations.
There you go.
We're gonna have to provide pictures when we review this book. CJ just took the floating book. American Betrayal. Basically, that her thesis is fabulous. Her thesis is that after the Cold War,
That's pretty cool.
during the Cold War, many of our leaders betrayed Americans by capitulating. I'm trying to explain this book. By capitulating to the Soviets, to communism. And as a result, a mindset occurred in the United States to capitulate to these totalitarian regimes in a social sense, political sense, and she carries this over and says this is now happening with our capitulation to supremacist Islam, totalitarian Islam. So very interesting thesis, very interesting book. Congratulations, Diana, getting it published. First day out today, so we're all happy about that.
I hate that.
It's 100 as of today. It's 194 on Amazon already.
I have a copy
rolled out.
reserved for you.
All right, well, at 12 minutes past 5 p.m. in South Florida, in the United States of America, on the 29th of May, it is our pleasure to bring in our very good friend and Islamic expert, analyst, investigator, provocateur, speaker, and all those other things. Please, everybody, let's warmly welcome Walid Shoebat to the TrentoVision Show. Walid, how you doing? Good to have you here, sir. How you been?
I've been fine, thank you.
Good. Well, we have a lot to go over these next 2 days. A while back, I mentioned Sharia: The Threat to America, a book that I'm privileged to be one of the authors. Well, we have a daily colloquy, all the 19 authors. And a couple of months ago, when you broke all that information about Huma Abedin, Anthony Weiner's wife, I mean, you lit up our email. Everybody's going back and forth sending your material. We thought it was magnificent work. So maybe in today or tomorrow, we can touch on Huma Abedin, because something tells me she's not going away, and something tells me she has an influence.
She's due for a promotion.
Yeah, it looks like that. But you just you just recently, you and your investigative team, broke a story, a spooky, scary, bizarre IRS, Obama, Kenya, Wahhabism. What is this all about? Give us an overview. What? CJ has a question.
Yeah. I think a lot of people maybe don't know
Who Walid
is, and so maybe
Should
he
we let
could
him
tell
tell
us
us
a
that?
little bit about his background and how he came to be doing what he's doing now, and then we could get into that.
Please
Can we do
tell
that?
the people of this man's deeds.
Everybody on our show knows who he is, but this show is going to go much further. So
Exactly.
yes, let's have Walid
If we
introduce
could.
himself.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit
please.
about your background and what you're doing now.
Well, my history stems living in the Palestinian arena. I was born when my mother first arrived in a little village called Bethlehem, which you sing about us once a year, and you forget about us the rest of the year. And she met my father in the US, got married, and of course she went to visit the Middle East, and she wasn't permitted to leave. She ended up extending her visit, I guess, for 35 years against her will. My Arabic family side stems from my grandfather, who was a known chieftain in the arena, in the area in Bethlehem, and he was going to get assassinated by the Husseini clan for selling land to the Jewish National Fund. He was also connected with Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. So my history stems from a time that there was much turmoil from the history of the family between Jews and Arabs. And I grew up in the Middle East environment in which, of course, I was indoctrinated with a theology of Islam at a young age and ended up in trouble in my teenage life, ended up in prison, came out of prison and planted an explosive charge on Bank Laomi Israel in Bethlehem. Regardless to how many people want to deny this, they cannot deny it because there is no evidence whatsoever from any news media source that could provide material from the Israeli government that states the opposite to what I'm saying. So having lived in the Middle East, also came to the United States, was involved in Chicago with the PLO, was disenfranchised about the disunity of Arabs. I joined the Muslim Brotherhood under the wings of Jamal Saeed, who was the colleague of Abdullah Azzam, the godfather of Al-Qaeda. And that united the Arab voices together because the Muslim majority united well under Islam. And so later on in my life, I've decided to attempt to convert my wife to Islam. And my wife challenged me to show her the problems in the Bible. And the rest was history. I became Christian in 1993, was active later on after 9/11, and became an analyst later on in the last few years into looking into the Middle East. And so here I am finding material. I'm the first in the country to expose material that has never been revealed to Western audiences. Much material that is known, quite known in the Middle East from the Arabic language and the Arabic sources, that is. So here we are. You know, I've written a book. My latest book is The Case for Islamophobia, showing the numerous researches I've done from the Arabic language to reveal to the Americans the type of threat they're under and the type of infiltration that we have in the government, as well as in the education system, and as well in the military system.
The Case for Islamophobia, is it out yet? Is that book out
Yes.
yet?
Oh yes, it's right. It's, as a matter of fact, it's right here. The Case for Islamophobia. Do you see it?
Yes. I got to get a copy
I
of
got
that.
it right here.
All right. I know, it's a
April
great
1st,
title.
yeah.
Great title. I mean, we can go into his background, which is fascinating. But one very important point. You don't even know this, Walid, but when 9/11 hit, I grew up in New Jersey. I watched the towers go up, and then I watched them go down that morning in my house in South Florida. And I have a background in Islamic studies from a theological point of view. So I always understood Islam from a Christian point of view. But then when that happened, I saw it now from a geopolitical point of view and a jihad point of view, all that. So I went back to school. I had several degrees at that point, 2001. Went back to school for some self-study. Studied under another Walid Faris at Florida Atlantic University.
Great guy.
Yep, and I consumed for 5 years everything I could on the subject, every seminar, everything. And it all came to culmination one day in November 2006 when I saw on Fox News, E.D. Hill, remember E.D. Hill? She says, we're showing this special on terrorism. It's called Obsession, Radical Islam's War Against the West. So I taped it, recorded it until I can watch it quietly. And I watched that special. And I'll never forget, your interview and your impactful, very strong words in that movie, that documentary. And that was the thing. After 5 years of study, watching that movie, I said, okay, I got to do something. I got to get involved. And that's when I took a step to go start the Florida Security Council and all this other stuff. And right after that movie, I called up the producers. I thought they'd be in New York or in LA. there are a couple of rabbis in Jerusalem, that the Clarion people that put it together.
Yeah.
And Walid was one of the key people being interviewed in Obsession.
And by the way, we will send people a copy of Obsession.
Anybody wants it, we'll send you a free
Anybody wants
copy.
a copy of Obsession, just
Walid was
contact Tom
conspiring
at
with Jews?
TrentoVision.tv.
Yep,
And
Walid
we
was
will send you a
conspiring with
copy.
Jews. Yes, he was. But you played a significant role in me.
In our education.
Yes, and we show that movie. And I don't
To
know if
everybody.
I was involved in the distribution of 30 million copies of that movie. So
Oh, you're the one.
myself
Yeah,
and some
he's
other
the
folks.
instigator
Yes,
right here.
yes.
I believe they wanted to do. They did a documentary called Relentless, and
Yes,
it
Yeah.
didn't succeed. And I remember I met with Wayne Copping in South Africa, and I said, "What you need to do is basically show the connection between Nazism, Hajj Amin al-Husseini,
Yeah.
and that will link to Americans, because when you talk to Americans about Islam, that enters into the realm of distant history.
Yep.
And Americans, excuse my French, they really are lousy in history. And you need to connect them to Nazism, because they could relate to that recent history. And that basically hit it big. So, thank God for Obsession. Thank God for you for distributing the video. Thank God that you basically tasted the medicine of Islam and did something about it. I wish every Christian does something about it.
Yeah, no. And Mark's been making the point. Is there a camera on you, Mark, or no? Mark's been making the point for a long time, the connection between Nazism and Islam.
Yeah.
Critically, we have to learn
And
that.
also the comparison with the Klan.
How about,
United
and also,
States.
the women's issue in Islam, which is highly critical, and the sexual deprivation of the Islamic people under the whole gamut. It's not just one particular facet of this that puts these people into the next level. There's the Nazism, there's a women's issue, there's a sex issue, and then there's the honor issue, and there's a whole plethora of issues that am I correct, Wally?
Yeah, you're correct. In fact, not many Americans are aware that the yellow star of David the Jews had to wear came. A lot of it paralleled of what was under the Umar covenant, Umar declaration, in which Jews had to wear yellow patches on their shoulder. Jews had to walk in the narrow alleyways. Jews had to ride a donkey, never ride a horse. They could never be a judge in a Muslim court. They could never adopt a Muslim child. Much of this thing from the Umar covenant or Umar declaration, transpired later on into Nazism. Nazism, in fact, used the Armenian genocide to learn how to pack Jews in trains. Of course, my grandfather's friend, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, was very much involved with Nazism. His photo is seen on the eve of the final solution. He wrote the Hungarian Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs to thwart the immigration of Jews to Israel. Tremendous player in Nazism. A Nazi war machine was composed of 8 different sections. 2 of them were Muslim, the Bosnian, the Khanzar division. 8 divisions. There was 2 Islamic divisions, and this part of history is rarely discussed.
Nobody knows this. Yeah.
Well, and I got a quick question of going along those lines.
Is your mic? Can you get your mic on? Or
Yeah,
maybe
my mic's
there
on.
you go.
Right. I get a question for you. When we were over in Israel, Tom, this is what I found interesting. It is such a key. It is such a key part of Islamic history. Yet, when we're over there, the Husseini, there was no pictures of him. It's almost like he's disappeared. But
the Mufti, the Grand Mufti,
Grand Mufti, it's like he's disappeared, and he's not on
the
walls.
We were in the Israel side. I don't know if he's disappeared in Gaza or the West Bank.
But what I'm saying is, it's almost like he's become an embarrassment nationally or publicly, but inside the culture, he's still revered. And
absolutely. In fact, you need to look at the Muslim Brotherhood websites and see how revered that man is.
Right.
He's all over the Muslim Brotherhood website. He is revered as a hero.
Now we're talking about, folks, 25 minutes past 5 o'clock on Wednesday, May 29th. We have Islamic expert, former Muslim, now evangelical Christian Walid Shoebat, born in Bethlehem, grew up over there, giving us insight. We're talking about the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the chief, the big poobah Muslim of Jerusalem, who conspired with, and we've shown it a million times on our video, had a bromance. You know what a bromance is?
The Christie and Obama thing?
Yeah, Christie and Obama. He had a bromance with Adolf Hitler, the Grand Mufti did, and then they put together these killing forces and all of this.
The Arab Fuhrer, right.
This is great. Imam Abdullah, you got a question, or Damon?
No, actually, I have a question.
Damon has a question.
You're talking about Americans' poor sense of history, and the way to get their attention is equating things with Nazism. Do you think part of the Muslim game plan is to associate Zionism with Nazism, is to get the attention.
The reverse sort of way.
The reversal. I mean, because you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Equating Zionism and Nazism. Obviously it doesn't really make sense, but do you think the Muslim world believes it, or is it just a way to shock America into coming to the Islamic point of view?
I think the second is true, but I think equating Islamic revolution with Nazism is not just simply an equating. It is what we do basically is to show the actual history of the collaboration between Nazism with the Islamic movement. No one can find any collaboration between the Zionists and the Jews versus the Nazis. That's an impossibility.
Other than the protocols.
Right, so equating something in a far-fetched manner is not the same as equating historic background to other historic background. The histories do not collide between Islamism and Nazism. In fact, Hitler himself said that, how much he wished that they would not have the flabby religion of Christianity in Germany, that how much he adored Islam. It will be a much better religion for the Aryan race, in which they could excel Islam much further than the Arabs and the Muslims. So, he basically loved Islam and hated and abhorred Christianity. So this really debunks the myth that Muslims use all the time, that the Nazis were Christian.
Now, this is what's going through my mind right now. We need to do a regular show with you, Walid, on all this Islamic stuff, apart from your investigative work, because we're getting out there to quite a few people on the radio side. We have a 50,000 watt radio covering 5 million people in South Florida. The show goes out to. And just to give you guys don't know this, I was driving home yesterday and I got a call. A lady was listening on the radio and was kind of in distress over a certain situation related to kind of the stuff we do, and called. And you never know. And we'll be able to help her out. But yeah, we'll have to do something with Walid. But we got to get back to the subject matter, because the clock is fighting us. I don't want to go too deeply into this. Go ahead.
Hey, 20 seconds. Just to let everybody know that, and Walid, that we're broadcasting on iHeartRadio every day at 5 o'clock. WNN in South Florida, on the internet, streaming live on youtube.com/TrentoVision, and on Walid's site today for the next couple of days. So if you don't hear the show, it's your own fault.
That's right. Absolutely. Now, Walid, you broke a story. You did an investigation into Malik Obama. I think he's called Roy, and the whole. I've sketched it out for everyone. The whole Obama family.
Oh boy.
High-tech graphics.
Here's Mr. Obama up here.
Hold on.
And
I thought that was an octopus.
That looks like Waldo.
This is Barack.
Where's Waldo?
Lift your graphic up, Tom.
This is Barack Obama Sr. at the top. And just come in a little bit, and he had 4 wives and 8 kids. Malik and Roy, who's Malik, was born over here in the 50s. Then in the 60s, 61 was Barack, the president. Then a little later in the 60s, another wife, 2 more kids. And then in 1970, another kid, George, and the wife there is a little cloudy. But Barack Sr., see the red over here? See these red things?
Kind of, yeah.
See the red?
Yeah.
Barack's first wife had 2 kids, then he got divorced, and a couple of years later she had 2 kids again. And even Barack in his book says, I think those are my brothers, but we're not quite sure. So Walid, you looked into this family and into some of their IRS activity. Yeah, okay, that's good enough. And our high-tech graphics here. Tell us a little bit about your study and what you found. Give us an overview, and then we got a lot of questions for you.
Yeah.
Well, I like your analogy of an octopus, because every time I investigate it, I find another leg. So far, we have 4 legs of this octopus. We started first by looking into the Obama-Kenyan connection. And I know there's a lot of objection about looking into President Obama's Muslim connection. While the discussion over Obama's connection to his Muslim family in Kenya is considered an acceptable topic of discussion in the Arab world. It is.
Not here.
You know, it is viewed as a great taboo in the United States, and that issue needs to be smashed to smithereens, because you know, why is it a taboo? We ask the question, why is it a taboo to look into Obama's Islamic connection, or the family who is Muslim?
Exactly.
Well,
Why does he get to trot it out when it's convenient for him, and the rest of us can't talk about it when it isn't?
Correct. It should be considered unfair at best, and in fact it should be considered purely prejudiced at worst, not to discuss Obama's family. After all, you know, this is the peaceful religion.
Family.
What's the problem with equating Obama's family to the peace-loving religion? The taboo should be considered unfair. In fact, the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, you know, it should condemn the media for keeping tight lid on the subject. It's time to go beyond what is disclosed by President Obama's dream of my fathers, or the Wikipedia version of Obama family, limited information and all of that, and get into the real issues of what the activism is on the Obama family. We started investigating basically 3 members of the family. Number 1 would be Sarah Barack Obama, the beloved and the benevolent grandmother of our president. Then you have also Saeed Obama, his favorite uncle and one of his closest relatives, very close to President Obama. In fact, the third one, Musa Ismail Obama, the cousin of President Obama, on the major television network on Al Jazeera, disclosed how the communication system works between the president and the Muslim Kenyan family. Saeed Obama is the chosen conduit for sending messages back and forth, getting approvals from President Obama. This has been disclosed on Al Jazeera television, and it's all been translated. No one so far could refute the translation work we've done. And so there's a conduit, only one person. This way, you know, the secrets don't come out. But nevertheless, it leaked through Al Jazeera television, in which the young Musa Ismail Obama, who was acting as the conduit for the fundraising empire of the Kenyan side of the Obama family. It is an empire. You have 2 major funding groups, which is the Mama Sarah Foundation, in which in the English language it claims that it is for HIV victims. It claims that it's for orphans and widows. And then you have also the Barack H. Obama Foundation, that's attributed to the father of President Obama, which is basically taken care of by Malik Hussein Obama, President Obama's half-brother. And in fact, I gained that information 1 year before the election, the second election of President Obama. I had itchy fingers to publish the material, but I hesitated. I wanted to publish the material just before the election. And you know, sure enough, nobody have caught it, even though it was on Al Jazeera, and it was released for an entire year. I kept it. I saved all the media, and I broke the news before the election. And what we found out was absolutely shocking. Not only does the monies that are claimed to go for HIV-infected widows and orphans is going nowhere to that route at all. There is no evidence, absolutely zero evidence from both foundations to show monies are being spent on widows, orphans, and of any of such sort. What we found out was Musa Ismail Obama, the representative of the Mama Sara Fund, on Al Jazeera, basically saying 90% of the monies that they raise from the foundation of Mama Sara goes to recruitment, sending Muslim students from Kenya into the most virulent Wahhabi schools. One of them was Al Qura University in Saudi Arabia, was founded by Muhammad Abdul Wahhab himself, the founder of Wahhabism. And the other two are the most virulent Wahhabi madrasas in the world, that these monies raised from the United States, raised from the West, Great Britain, so on and so forth, is going towards that avenue. Now, when we began to investigate...
Wait, Walid, hold it right there, because this is very...
I want to do a couple...
this is very familiar to you.
Yeah.
But you just laid out a bunch of stuff that we got to, for our audience.
Let me zero
even
in
though we
on
have a brilliant audience.
Let me zero in on a question.
We got to break it down a little bit. Let me ask one question first. Hang on.
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting Americans.
Yes, that's right, Americans. Right. These are the two foundations. They're American foundations. They're based in the United States of America, right?
Well, one of them is Mama Sara does not have a 501c3, raises funds from the U.S. Using a 501c3 in California that basically acts as a hub. So you're right, in essence. Malik Obama's foundation is a United States foundation, approved a 501c3 by the IRS.
All right, has anybody pulled their 990s to see what kind of money's going through these organizations?
No, not at all.
Okay, that could be something. You had a question? Because all the C3s, 501c3s, have to they've got to report their 990s. We are a 501c3, and every year we do our taxes. We have to say if somebody donated over $5,000, we got to put their name down. You got to show everything.
Right.
And these are, sometimes they're hard to get, but they are a matter of public record if they're C3s.
That quick track status on 501c3, or do they have to go through the same heartaches that the Tea Party groups
Well,
went through?
we're going to find that out, how these groups got their C3 status, because he reveals that in the article. But
that was one of the questions that I wanted to get into, was when were these foundations registered in the United States? And are you able to show a direct link between Barack Hussein Obama, the president, and these foundations themselves?
Or is it
or is he?
Billy Carter?
Are there so many degrees of separation that he could just say, you know what, sure, I'm related to them, but I don't have anything to do with those foundations. I don't endorse them. I don't profit from them. I don't help my family members profit from them, and I have nothing to do with it. Is he able to distance himself from it, or can you connect them? And if so, how? I mean, what's the evidence for that?
Well, it's a very good question. When it comes to the issue of the IRS illegally retroactivated his tax-deductible status, according, in fact, to the National Legal Policy Center, which is a watchdog group that investigated the issue when he didn't have a 501c3, was astonished that the 501c3 status by the IRS was retroactivated, in which no one in the entire country can get it that fast. He was basically forging and claiming that he was a 501c3 for a couple, 2-3 years before that.
This is Malik you're talking about.
Malik Obama, correct.
Okay.
And when it was found out, he corrected the problem, but it is impossible to correct such a problem without investigating what happened in the last 2 years. He was collecting all this monies. In fact, the address that was given to the IRS is a bogus address. It is a UPS store. Everything was bogus in the application with the IRS. And how did the IRS retroactivated this so speedily? It's impossible unless there was favoritism involved. In other words, it seems very clear, and we have good reason to believe that the reason Barack H. Obama Foundation gained this status so quickly is because there was influence using the Barack Obama name.
No, really? No.
That's crazy.
You know what has to happen if you guys have not done this yet? We got to lay the timeline out of the filing of the C3 application, well, the time the complaint, the time he started raising money, and see if it parallels the Obama administration and their current
the
scandal.
White House visitor list of the director of the IRS who paid over 100 visits to the White House during Obama's first term versus one visit to the White House during George W. Bush's second
Because
term.
that would, you may have done that, but that would be very interesting, that the IRS is giving the conservative organizations hard time, you're not getting your C3, you're not getting your C4, and all of a sudden out of Kenya, the Kenyans come in, and Malik lives in Washington, D.C., and he goes, oops, I think I need a C3, and the IRS goes, no problem, here it is, and guess what? It goes back to whenever you wanted to go back to.
Right.
That is very interesting.
And this is a picture of President Obama
with his half-brother Malik.
Is that Malik? That's
Malik.
Boy. Okay.
Right, and there's another picture of Malik or his organization. And just to explain,
Hey, Walid, this is the picture. I don't know if you can see these, but there's a picture of Malik with the president. It looks like in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then there's a picture of Malik speaking at a podium. Now, what is that all about? Where he's
That's at
speaking
the
at a podium?
IDO, right?
yeah, that's it.
Yes, the podium is actually even more interesting than the 501c3. I wish that you could help me in gaining more information as far as to the 501c3. I focus on the Middle Eastern issues. So when it comes to Malik Obama's photo there on the podium, what Americans don't understand is the significance of this. He is not on the podium in front of a group that wants to donate monies for widows and orphans. He is in company of some of the most wanted people on earth. In that event, he is addressing his bosses, and his bosses are Omar al-Bashir, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court
Great.
on 7 counts of mass murder. And we're talking about Darfur. We're talking about the Darfur that President Obama wanted to bring to justice, the culprits. And yet at the same rate, President Obama thwarts the Southern Sudanese from taking action anytime they want to take action against the attacks.
Yeah.
And there also, in that podium, sitting next to him, is his boss. Let's first understand that relationship. His boss is Swar Dahab. Swar Dahab is the director and chairman of what is called the Islamic Da'wah organization. Da'wah literally means the call to Islam, building madrasas. This organization is the organization in Sudan that is responsible for building madrasas and mosques throughout the African subcontinent. There is about maybe 40 to 60 extensions of it. One of them is in Kenya. And Malik Hussein Obama is the executive secretary for that organization. And let's understand what the organization, the Islamic Dawah organization, is centered at. It is supervised and centered in the country of Sudan. Sudan is considered by the State Department a state harbors terrorism. It's a terrorist state. We're not talking about people who want to bow 5 times towards Mecca. We are talking about the madrasas. We are talking about those madrasas that, for example, the man that butchered the British officer in London just last week, I believe. This man was recruited in a madrasa in Kenya, the same country of Malik Obama. This is the kind of activity Malik Obama is doing, is building the same kind of madrasas and facilities that educates under the system of Wahhabism that produces terrorism. Let's not forget what the American government stated about madrasas.
Now, just to highlight what you're saying is, we're putting up a graphic right now, and go ahead and say those names for us there.
No, there's a different guy in that picture. This is the This is the photo.
No, this is out. The
This
guy's.
is a fantastic photo. It is a Swallow Dahab of the IDO and Haniyeh from Hamas,
And Kwaradari.
and Yusuf Qaradari, the
What is that
spiritual-
all about?
It is the Three Stooges.
Walid, what is that photo all about?
Swar Dahab is his direct boss, Malik Obama's direct
You're
boss.
kidding me.
He is the chairman of the Dawah organization stationed in Sudan. In fact,
Crazy.
you could see Swar Dahab visiting with Hamas, with Khalid Mash'al, alongside Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, the spiritual head of the Muslim Brotherhood. In fact, in our what we disclosed in the videos, those videos should be shown on your show. He was speaking to Khalid Mash'al in Hamas, oratory style, classical Arabic language. The boss of Malik Obama stated the following: I have been awaiting to being with you for so long. With you, who? Hamas. Regardless of our distance, Jerusalem will be brought back. The Sudanese will not falter on participating in jihad and actual advocating terrorism in front of Khalid Mash'al in the auspices of Hamas, considered a terrorist organization and a terrorist entity. And this whole program goes even further. Let's not forget what Sudan is. Sudan is the one that begat the popular Arab and Islamic Conference, who begot the meeting with representatives from the Hamas, Egyptian Islamic Jihad, Algerian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, who killed 3,000 Americans, the Iranian terrorists. This is all involved in a big package with terrorist organizations. This is why I changed my article to say the Obamas or Malik Obama's in bed with terrorists, not just speaking to them, but in bed with them and partnering with them. It goes further than this. Our documentation shows that even that organization, the Islamic Dawah organization, now is in partnership with the Muslim World League, which had its tentacles involved in Al-Qaeda in 9/11, as well as the WAMI, the Muslim Youth. WAMI is the World Association of Muslim Youth, and in fact we show the photos of the meeting, partnering with those as well. WAMI was also part and parcel of involvement. The Philippines, for example, the Philippines WAMI was involved in supporting Al-Qaeda, considered to be a terrorist entity. So we're talking about a major issue in which I basically scratched the surface.
Wow.
I have a question
Sure.
here, okay? If Malik's name was anything but Obama, do you think his name would be on the terrorism watch list?
I believe if Malik Obama didn't have the last name Obama,
Yeah.
he would be long time arrested and thrown in prison, because we're talking about financiering. It needs to be investigated whether it's considered financiering of terrorism. Malik Obama is very much up to his neck with this kind of involvement with these organizations. He does have U.S. residence. In other words, the laws in the United States, when you are a U.S. resident, have a
Yes.
501c3, raising these kind of funds, you are applicable under the laws of the United States. And it goes further. Even the President of the United States having such associations brings a major problem, because we have something called CARL, Commitment to the United States. Associations. When we talk about associations, we say, it's guilt by association. Sure, Tom, you could be associated with any Tom, Dick, and Harry you want, but you're not in the government.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
become an
Well,
official
this
of the government.
president,
Go ahead.
yeah, this president already has terrorist, well-documented connections and associations, which everybody knew before he was elected. Who's his buddies? Bill Ayers?
His biographer.
Rashid Khalidi?
Edward
on.
Said, yeah, sure.
I mean, what's the difference between what Malik Obama is doing from the Holy Land Foundation trial?
Exactly.
Well, if
Well,
you
this is
compare
worse
Ayers
because-
with Malik Obama was involved in Wahhabism in Sudan, Sudan is a government that succeeded in their killings of millions of people.
2 million people.
Yep. Can you imagine if Mitt Romney
had these associations?
His brother was a lieutenant in the mafia or something.
Or the KKK.
Or in the KKK.
The Mormon mafia.
And,
no. I think the fact that he has stock in Chick-fil-A just disqualifies him from being president. So let's just end the conversation there.
I have a question for Walid. And thinking from the opposition side, I've noticed when we've gone into Hamas, Tom, like when Orlando Hamas funds Hamas, when we caught them funding Hamas inside there,
right.
We saw George Galloway say Barack Hussein Obama, and they didn't know we were filming them.
Right.
Now, and also when you talk to Muslims, as Muslims, just one-on-one, and don't try to,
proselytize.
Yeah, proselytize or anything. You're just talking with them. You come to find out that they really, truly believe that Barack Obama is a Muslim. How much does that ideology, now this is the United States, how much does the outside world think, looking at these associations like we are and saying, oh God, he's a total Muslim? How much does that destroy U.S.'s credibility in dealing with war and terror?
Well, as far as Obama's Islam, you got to look at what his Kenyan family says. I have the statements in my research. I can't quote them verbatim. But Mama Sarah basically complimented the president of having grown in a good Muslim family. They don't like to discuss his supposed Christian conversion. That's his off limits. In other words, they'd never want to affirm that President Obama is really a Bible-believing Christian of any sort.
Well, I don't think anybody believes that.
Is a black theology believing guy.
Liberation
Black liberation theology.
But the question was, how does the Muslim world view Barack Obama?
Well, it is divided. Al-Qaeda doesn't like President Obama. But in Egypt, you have the most famous dates that are sold in the streets. They renamed the date. They called it Obama date.
The Egyptians must love him, of course. I mean, he put
the Brotherhood
Morsi in. Sure, yeah.
Right. I mean, he's the one that did his historic speech in Cairo, insisting that the Muslim Brotherhood be present when the Muslim Brotherhood was considered as a terror entity under the Egyptian government, Hosni Mubarak. And it was President Obama who broke that and allowed the Muslim Brotherhood to be included in his speeches. So he's the one that gave the green light to the Muslim Brotherhood. In fact, it's known fact in the Middle East that it was Obama's elections, and they had a tight window to basically move very fast in their agenda. And in fact, this is the whole issue of the Arab Spring. We've seen the results of the Arab Spring. It's become an Islamic winter. It's no thanks to President Obama. The speech was, involving Rashad Hussein. In fact, how many Americans knew the speechwriter of President Obama, Rashad Hussein, was interviewed by Al-Ahram newspaper? That is the top newspaper in Egypt. Al-Ahram newspaper asked him point blank, you are a Muslim. You are supposed to serve the Muslim cause. You work for the president. And then he said, you need to intervene regarding the nuclear issues. Rashad Hussein said and responded, I will intervene when the right time comes. I was the first to break that piece of news, but there's very little interest from the Americans to look at that news.
Sure.
Did Ummah have anything to do with the Brotherhood being invited
to
that?
Hang on to Ummah, because we're starting to run out of time here. Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, Walid, but Dave has a question back there.
My question would be as an American and just getting into this and really starting to wrap my head around this and not think that maybe it's propaganda or something like that. How much trouble, danger do you put yourself in coming out to express the truth on this issue, being that you were at one time inside the organization, kind of like the Italian mob? If you came out, we all knew what happened.
Well, I'm not going to answer the second question. I'm going to answer the first question. As far as, the danger to my life, I'm not interested about my life. My soul is prepared. The question is yours prepared? Is Brother Trento's prepared? And that's what I first learned when I became Christian. Jesus himself said, if you try to save your life, you will lose it. If you try to lose your life, you will save it. Here me and Tom trying to lose our lives, thank God, by God's grace, we're still living. However, when you stated, I'm not sure, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, I'm not sure if this is a rumor or let's make something certain here. The Malik Obama's involvement is very much covered in the Middle East. The coverage is huge. Oh. Even CNN covered it. How many Americans know CNN, the Arabic language?
I did not know that.
Covered it. I can send you the links. You can look at CNN in the Arabic language and read under his official status as the executive secretary of the Muslim Islamic Da'wah organization, as well as Al-Watan referenced it, which CNN referenced from Al-Watan in Yemen. You have the Adan News covered this. You have the Kull Al-Watan covered it. You have the 14th of October covered it. You have the Nas, I can't read the name, but you have Hadramaut covered it. You have As-Sahwa covered it. In Saudi Arabia, you have the newspaper Uqaz, one of the most reputable newspapers in Saudi Arabia, covered it. You have Al-Riyadh covered it. Saures covered it. You have a litany in Egypt covered it. Al-Jumhuriyah. A litany of news media covered it in Sudan. My question is, how come no American covered it? Why am I the only one who covered it?
And we're gonna answer that question tomorrow when you come back, Walid, because we're just about out of time with you. You will come back tomorrow, correct?
That is correct.
All right, yeah. We will see you tomorrow on that cliffhanger. We want you to tell us a bit about the sex slavery that's involved with the Sudan, Kenya, Obama connection, and all of the grisly details there. But folks,
I want to get into, and we want to get more into President Obama's connection to these foundations and these activities, and how he helps them by hindering the legitimate prosecution of the former leader of Sudan.
All right, thanks. It was amazing. Thank you.
It was. We'll see you tomorrow, Walid. Take care. And
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh man.
All right, that was Walid Shoebat, folks. He will be back tomorrow. This is Tom Trento. We're on WNN 1470 on the radio side. If you're watching on the internet, TrentoVision.tv. You can even be watching at theunitedwest.org. As Mark said earlier, you can listen on iHeartRadio. Great way of following us, listening to us. I think our analytics show something like 40% of the people are following the show on smartphones. Yeah. Either listening or watching it. Yeah, it's pretty good. But tomorrow we will have Walid back tomorrow, Thursday, the 30th of May. We'll get more into these details. This is some crazy stuff, man. Even though we know what's going on, it's still crazy. But right now we got to say goodbye. Say goodbye, CJ.
Goodbye. Yeah, it's the religion of pieces.
Well, yeah, and we're bringing Max on because of something similar that happened in France.
We're bringing a person on who is going to report on an attack that occurred in France, where a soldier was standing in line and a Muslim came up behind him and tried to slice his throat. So he's going to report on that. That's on Friday. Today and tomorrow we have Walid Shoebat, and but our special guest on Friday will go way beyond that attack and tell us what the jihad situation is, what the culture is, what the French are doing to fight the onslaught of Islam in their country.
It is fantastic what we
have
done there.
I think they're capitulating.
Well, on a serious note, we know, because many of you communicate with us, we know that many Muslims watch our show, and they try to do opposition research. I think that's what it is. But and we have said a million times, and we're straight out. My real name is Tom Trento. I'm not hard to find. I do not hate Muslims by any means. I don't like the ideology of Islam. It fails as a theological system. It fails as a political system. It fails as a system that can maximize what human life is all about. And if you're, we're students of Inspire magazine, which is a magazine of AQ, Al-Qaeda.
I love that magazine.
Yeah, I know you do. And Al-Qaeda talks about small cell jihads, just figuring out a way in which to cause mischief and trouble in the West. And on Friday, today's Wednesday, 2 days from today, Friday the 31st, we will have Skyped in from Paris, France, an individual who has made his name, actually, and nobody knows his name, but has made a mark in the West, in the world, by videotaping the thousands of Muslims that shut the streets down in Paris on Friday prayer. What's the name of Friday prayer?
Juma prayer.
Jumping Juma.
Jumping Juma.
Freaky Friday, jumping Juma, as you like to
Friday.
call it.
Our for those of you who aren't regular devotees of our show, Friday is Jumping Juma, Freaky Friday Fridays, and we do a little evaluation of CJ reads updates us on the jihad attacks around the world, and we talk about the religion of peace but we also reach out to those Muslims caught up on a serious note.
TrentoVision.tv, from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show,
where evil and corruption is exposed. That's what we do around here on the Tom Trento Show. We're TrentoVision.tv, broadcasting on this beautiful, rainy, it's raining like crazy here in South Florida on the 29th of May, Wednesday. Today is, for all the Democrats who were real Democrats a while back, today's President John F. Kennedy's birthday. Did you know that? And it's Patrick Henry's birthday. And it's Bob Hope's birthday. So May 29th, 2013, a couple of minutes after 5 p.m. in the afternoon on the East Coast, Boca Raton. We're broadcasting, ladies and gentlemen, out of WNN 1470 on your AM dial. 50,000 horsepower going all the way up the eastern coast of Florida, through northern Miami, through Fort Lauderdale, through Palm Beach, West Palm, all the way. We bring him on, but he does these investigative exposés, these reports, and this one is shocking. It's shocking in the real world, in the Obama nation world, or the United States of Obama. It ain't that shocking in a sense.
It is an abomination.
It is not shocking in the Muslim world.
It is an abomination.
It is not shocking in the Muslim world either.
But you will be incensed, indeed. And in fact, it's a two-part show. Wednesday today, the second part of Walid Shoebat's special investigative expose will be shown tomorrow, the 30th. I think the 30th comes after the 29th of May. The 30th of May. So last week, as you know, we spent quite a bit of time, and here's a couple of newspapers from London. We spent quite a bit of time on this issue. This is the Daily Mail. I had a friend in London who was there during the attack on drummer Lee Rigby. And we're going to continue with this story. We're going to be continuing with this story in days ahead, because not only is it a shocking, heinous, horrendous event. Here's Lee Rigby right here on the Metro. But now there's copycat events taking place, and we don't know if they're copycat events because as up to Orlando on a good day. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate everybody on the radio side, on the television side, the internet television side, TrentoVision.tv. And this show is going to be broadcast on our special guests site. We'll tell you about that person in a minute. Also on teapartycommunity.com, teapartycommunity.com. Hello. Let's bring CJ in and we'll both say hello to the Tea Party community people. Hello, CJ. How are you?
Hi, good.
Hello, Tea Party community. You guys could say hello too. Those are our friends.
Hello, Tea Party.
Oh, Abdullah, you're with us today.
I am here.
Oh, he would have missed this show.
I would not
Don't
miss
you have
this.
a job? I mean, you come to our studio every day. We don't pay you anything. How do you do that?
He gets the jizya.
I am paid by my mosque to attend and keep an eye on you.
Oh, you're paid by your mosque.
Yes,
Okay,
to keep an eye on you.
well, you're gonna have an interesting. You're gonna have an interesting day
Oh, yes,
today.
world's most famous apostate.
That's right. We have the world's most famous apostate. Walid Shoebat is with us, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be on in just a few moments. Walid is a former Muslim, former member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and now a fascinating individual doing amazing work. And but I won't get into too much of it because we'll tell you when we